Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Today I was going to move on to our first phrase, and from there I was going to take you to the first type of sentence in Arabic, but that is not going to happen today simply due to the reason that a few points has been raised about the previous video, and I'm going to address those points. First of all, however, there was a positive point about Balaga aspect of language, which I'm going to elaborate further. Balaga, which we can translate expression, is a very important attribute of any language, and in Quran it is at its peak. As I said last time, at a human level, some of us can produce a good piece of prose from time to time, but doing so consistently at a human level is not really possible. Those who say it is Muhammad's own doing, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no human being has ability to come up with a refined, beautiful, eloquent and elegant language such as Quran on a regular basis. And come on, doing this for 22 plus years, this is simply not possible at a human level. The next comment was to provide further clarification about Fasaha and Balaga. Quran is both Fasih and Baligh. Although it is not really possible to go into the nitty-gritty of it in 5 to 10 minutes, I will need at least 10 videos to fully explain these two terms, but I'm going to shed some light on these two terms in the next few minutes. Last time, in a nutshell, I said Fasaha is mainly to do with correct use of grammar, which is the use of Sarf and Nahw. Being human beings, we are fallible. Let alone Balaga, we quite often tend to do mistakes at the level of Sarf and Nahw. In the last two videos, I have committed two mistakes, one of spelling and other of Sarf. When I was writing Iblis, I ended up writing Iblis, so I omitted Ya. So it should really be Iblis, not Iblis. Iblisu, not Iblisu. So Iblisu, Iblisa, Iblisa. This is Ghairu Munsarif. So these are the three Arabic forms. I also did a third mistake about this root, which is Lam Mim Sin. Lam Mim and Sin. So I ended up writing Lamisa when I put these together, Lamisa, which is mistake of Sarf. It is not Lamisa, it's Lamasa. So Lamasa Yalmisu. Lamasa Madi, Yalmisu Mudare. And Lamsun is Masdar, kind of like that. Lamsun, to touch. To touch, that means so Lamasa Yalmisu. Lamsun is the masdar, and there is another root which is Faraha, Faraha, and that is something to do with happiness. So Mazi Mudare will be Fareha Yafrahu, right, blue. Fareha Yafrahu, and the masdar will be Farahun. Focus here that this is Lamsun, this is silent, the middle letter here, middle letter is mutaharrik with Fataha, Farahun. It's not Farahun, Farahun, Lamsun. Now, because touch is at some level to kind of to do with the happiness as well, and we all know that. So the way I'm going to remember this in the future is that these are opposite, Madi and Mudare, for touch and for to be happy or to rejoice at something or over something. So lamasa yalmisu and fareha yafrahu. Lamasa yalmisu, fareha yafrahu. So these are opposite, and this is the way to memorize. I sometimes use these tricks. You may have your own tricks to remember things. So these were the two mistakes which I did, one of spelling and the other one of sarf. So correct use of sarf and nahw are clearly important attributes of fasaha, but there are other elements as well. For example, there shouldn't be any tongue twisters. The words should not be hard on the tongue, and the flow of the language should be maintained at all times. So fasaha basically is good quality language. There are no tongue twisters, for example, in it. And here I have already written something here. For example, if we look at it, so this word in English, I don't know what it means, but onomatopoeia is not really easy to pronounce. So in Quran there are no tongue twisters at all whatsoever, because that will be against the principles of language being fasih. There also shouldn't be any sarf or nahw mistake. I've written here a sentence which to those who do not Arabic perhaps may sound alright. If I read it, Allahumma maghfur li aba'ana wa li ummatina wa li ana. So what I want to say is, oh Allah, forgive my forefathers, my mothers, and me. But I have done a lot of mistakes here in this sentence. So this is Allahumma is fine, but this is, here is a mistake of sarf. So the verb is ghafara yaghfuru, ghafara yaghfiru, ghafara yag mudare yaghfiru, and because it's fail amr has been used here, you're asking something, requesting something, so that will be ighfar, ighfar. So by combining here Allahumma ighfar, it should be not Allahumma ghafur. Sorry, I've written another mistake. Easy to do mistakes at human level. So it's basically ghafira yaghfaru, ghafira yaghfaru ighfar. Can't be ighfar, then ighfar. Ghafira yaghfaru ighfar. Okay, so ghafira yaghfaru ighfar, and Allahumma ghfir it should be. This is Hamzatul Wasl, so it's there in writing but it's not pronounced. So Allahumma ghfir, so there should be kasra here, maghfir, and that's correct sarf, maghfir. For maghfur is wrong. Li aba'ana, aba'una is plural, so aba'una, aba'ina, aba'ina, aba'una, aba'ina, aba'ana, aba'ina. Forefathers. And this lam is harf jara, and because of that this should be li aba'ina. So this is a mistake of nahw here. So sarf mistake, nahw mistake. Wale ummatina, ummatina is again mistake of sarf, because ummun is singular, ummun, and then it's ummahatun, ummahatun, not ummatun. So it's a sarf mistake here, wale ummahatina, and then there is another is nahw mistake here. Ana means I, li ana for me, but that's a mistake of nahw. When ana is used in maf'uli form, it changes to ya mutakallim, so that should be wali and for me. So forgive me, forgive my forefathers, my mothers, and forgive me. So there has been so many mistakes here, both of sarf and nahw, and that is against the principles of language being fasih. So this language cannot be fasih. This ya mutakallim is really interesting, because if you remember Surah Kafirun, everybody remembers that, we have all memorized it. So lakum dinukum waliya dini, wa liya, lakum dinukum waliya din. That's actually what it is. Wali dini, basically. So ya mutakallim is allowed to take either sukoon or fatha. Ya mutakallim never takes dhamma or kasra. So here we can use either sukoon, like here, or we have got option of using fatha. So rather than pronouncing it wali dini, because if it is a sukoon here, we have to say wali, which is a little bit hard, the flow is not very good. So wali dini, and this is mutakallam as well. So in Quran, and Allah Ta'ala has said waliya din. Waliya is easy to, is much better flow, waliya, and this ya mutakallam has been dropped altogether. So it is waliya dini, and when we stop, we say waliya din, waliya dini, because this kasra means the ya mutakallam has been dropped here, because otherwise it will not make any sense grammatically from the nahw point of view. So waliya dini, ya has been dropped, so waliya din, lakum dinukum waliya din. So that was the important point about this ya mutakallam, because ana will be ya in maf'uli form. So ana I, and ya is me, kind of thing. So that's how it works. And then balaga, we said balaga is about expression, which is a good translation. Expression or rhetoric is good translation as well. There are three sciences of balaga, which are ilmul ma'ani, ilmul bayan, and ilmul badi. So let's go to balaga. It's balaga. So balaga, we have three sciences there. One is ilmul ma'ani, ilmul ma'ani, ilmul bayan, and the third one is ilmul badi. Ilmul badi. So ilmul ma'ani means that we are using the words by which we do not really have their literal meaning at heart. For example, last time I said that we are not continuing to be taxiing on the runway all the time. We are soon gonna take off. So we're not really sitting in a plane here, and what I wanted to say was that we are not going to continue to be on this foundation level forever. We are soon gonna move on. So I have used different kind of words to give different meanings. So that's ilmul ma'ani, that fits in here, kind of thing. So you're not using exactly, it's the different terminologies in Arabic. There is a shabi, which is the basic level kind of thing, kinaya. Isti'ara is something totally different. That was isti'ara which I just used, which you not really have original meaning of the words. And in kinaya you can have two options. You can either go for the literal meaning, or sometimes you go for the alternative meaning. So there's option there, and there's majaz as well. So the different terms, we're not going to go into those today. And there are many examples in Quran. For example, masalahum kamasalil ladzi istawqada naran falamma adaa'at ma hawlahu dhahaba Allahu bi nurihim wa tarakahum fi zulmatin la yubsirun. That's first isti'ara, metaphor. Summun bukmun umyun fahum la yarjun. That's the second one. وكصيب من السماء فيه ظلمة ورعد وبرق يجعلون أصابعهم في آذانهم من الصواعق حذر الموت والله محيط بالكافرين. That's the third metaphor, right at the beginning. And then the fourth one as well, I think. يكاد البرق يخطف أبصارهم كلما أضاء لهم مشوا فيه وإذا أظلم عليهم قاموا ولو شاء الله لذهب بسمعهم وأبصارهم إن الله على كل شيء قدير. So that's the end of the second ruku, and then it changes completely. So in a short space of time there are three kind of metaphors, four metaphors. I think people may differ from me on that. So that's ilm al-ma'ani. And then we have ilm al-bayan. Ilm al-bayan depends on the speaker really, what kind of word you use, what kind of sentences you use, whether long sentences, short sentences, etc., etc. So among the other things, ilm al-bayan is about the appropriateness of the level of language as well. For example, if you ring 999 in an emergency situation and then start talking, oh, how are you, how the life is treating you, what have you been like, long time no see, what the weather is over there like, you know, it's very nice in here, and by the way I can't breathe, can you help? So this will be totally inappropriate in a 999 call. In 999 call you will say, this is Mr. X, I can't breathe, please help. And the help will be there hopefully in the next 5 minutes or so. On the other hand, if you already spent 5 minutes on talking rubbish in this context really, though it's not exactly rubbish, but it becomes, then that is totally inappropriate for this, in this kind of situation. On the other hand, if you ring, end up bringing a friend to whom you have not spoken for a long period of time, and then you will have these niceties of conversation, and you will say, okay, how are you, how is the life treating you, a long time no see, we haven't met for a long period of time, we have not spoken for a long period of time, what is the situation like in your city, it's very nice in here, weather is really nice today here. And then if you have some kind of ulterior motive, then you can say, okay, by the way, I had this setback and I wonder if you can help, kind of thing. So that will be appropriate in that kind of situation. So that's all to do with ilm al-bayan. It depends on the speaker, and also the speaker can judge the mood of the audience. What do they want to know, what their knowledge requirement says, is there any confusion out there, is it important to address that confusion, or just with go your agenda kind of thing. So that's all makes a part of that ilm al-bayan in Balaga. A good choice of individual words is also up to the speaker basically. I have seen in Pakistan, you must have seen as well, that even in medical teaching institutions they say the patient has expired. Now this is a totally inappropriate use of the word expire. People don't expire, medicines expire, packaged food has expiry date. People don't expire, people die. If you do not really want to use the word die, you can say the person has passed away, that's absolutely fine, but saying the person has expired, it doesn't make any sense at all. And finally, ilm al-badi is about icing on the cake, cherry on top. It's further beautification and refinement of the speech, further embellishment of the kalam. For example, this rhyming of ayahs which occurs is part of kind of this ilm al-badi. It sounds like poetry. It is not poetry, because Quran clearly says, Allah Ta'ala clearly says in Quran, وَمَا أَلَّمْنَاهُ الشِّعْرَ وَمَا يَنبَغِي لَهُ. We haven't taught him poetry. So it definitely isn't poetry, but it kind of sounds like poetry. For example, Surah Adiyat, when you start reading, well, Adiyat is abhan fal muriyati kadhan fal mugirati subhan fa asarna bihi nakan fa wasatna bihi jam'a. So this is kind of rhyming, and in many cases this rhyming also gives you sense of a theme. When the rhyming changes, theme changes. So up till here, فَبَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا is one kind of rhyming, and then it changes إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. It changes. So that's one theme, and that is another theme, two different themes, and then there's a third theme as well. So in this small surah there are 3 themes, and this rhyming not only helps to beautify the kalam, but it also gives you some idea when one theme is going to end and the other one is going to start. Similarly in Surah Taha, Taha, Tashka, Tahtassara, it all rhymes, and then it changes, Hal Ataka Hadith Musa, then the story starts, So that's all part of the Balaga aspect, which is Ilmul Badi in this case. The next point was raised about the abstract level of the alphabets, the roots which we use at abstract level. As I said, it represents the meaning in a broad and kind of general level. Let us look at that root Kaf Ta Ba again. So Kaf Ta Ba, when we write Kaf Ta Ba in isolation, which I mean is that we are looking at these letters in isolation, isolated kind of concept, that we are not combining them. Basically, we are not giving them in order. They are looked at in isolation. We can Kaf Ta Ba, we can write Kaf Ta Ba, we can write Kaf, by the way, and Ba, Kaf, Ta, we can write Tha, Ba, and Kaf. The point is that we are looking at these letters in isolation. We are not giving them a specific order. So individuals not joined together, not put in specific order. That's the kind of abstract level of thinking about these 3 letters in any kind of fail, that will apply to any kind of fail. So when we put these letters in a specific order, they generate a root of 3 letters, which has its own specific intrinsic core meaning, which applies to all the words which are derived from that root. For example, when we put this Kaf Ta Ba together in this order Kaf Ta Ba rather than Kaf Ba Ta. So I have Kaf and I have Ta, and I have put them together. Not only putting them together, I'm gonna join them by these vowels, which are haraka. So Fatha, Fatha, Fatha. So what I have done is I have generated a verb here, which is past tense. He wrote, Kaf Ta Ba. And the other words which will be similar from these 3 letters, they will have the same order. Kaf will be first, then will be Ta, then will be Ba. There may be other letters in between. For example, Khatibun, Khatibun. So there's alif extra here, but Kaf Ta Ba is in the same order. We can say Maktubun, Maktubun. So Mim extra, Wa extra, but Kaf Ta Ba are in the same order. Maktabatun, Kattabun, or Kitabun. Okay, alif extra here. Okay, but Kaf Ta Ba exactly in the same order. So all the words which will be derived from this in the same order in that particular word will give a kind of similar meaning, something to do with writing. Basically, that's what it will be. And when we change this order to from Kaf Ta Ba to Khabata, as we looked at it last time, Khabata, Khabata. Now this change in the order has produced a different root with a different meaning. So at an abstract level, Kabata and Khataba will have connotations of something similar among them, and for which I would like you to refer to the previous video, please. I'm not going to go into the details of this time. So that's what the abstract level is, and then at the concrete level, we give these letters a specific order, which then gives a specific meaning, and that is a specific root in that case. We can look at a few other. I was asked to look at these three letters, lam, mim, za. One is lam, written isolatedly, and it's mim, and it's za. Actually, I have already reproduced it here. Makes it easy. So lam, mim, za at an abstract level. It could be za, mim, lam, lam, za, mim, lam, mim, za. So these are three separate kind of letters, so to say, at an abstract level. So what now we are doing here is, I have given them three different specific orders. So one of them is za, mim, lam. So from this I can have zamala, yuzamilu, muzamalatun, which means to be a colleague. And if we put this in fa'ilun pattern, that will become zamilun. Remember, fa'ilun pattern is rahimun, karimun, sharifun. This is sifa, but a kind of sifa which is it's a kind of permanent kind of attribute. So being a colleague is not that you're not colleague one day and you're not colleague another day. So being colleague is a long-term thing. So it then falls on this pattern of fa'ilun, zamilun, to be a colleague, for example. Then this is another pattern of this verb, which is tazamala, yatazamalu, tazamulun, which means to be close companion, which is kind of, these are close as well because you are there every day, you see each other every day, but this may be a bit more closer than being colleague, but it's kind of similar meaning, but at the same time separate meaning as well. Then we give these a different order, lam, za, mim, and now we have these verbs. There are actually 5. I have written 2 here, 3 here. Lazima, yalzamu, luzumun, to be necessary. Lazama, yulazimu, mulazamatun, to accompany constantly. Similar kind of connotations here. Alzama, yulzimu, ilzamun, to compel. When you're together, you tend to compel people as well for some reason, force them to do things, etc., etc. So that and that is the specific meaning to this order, and then we change the order to lam, mim, za. So from this I could get only one, there may be more than that. Lamaza, yalmuzu, lamzun, to backbite. Okay. So backbiting, what is that to do with this? Well, it does happen quite often here among colleagues. It can sometimes happen here as well, backbiting. And when you accompany constantly, people do that. Backbiting does occur, I think. So there are connotations of these meanings at that abstract level, but at concrete level, they have kind of their own meanings, basically. Here there is another word which doesn't have, its meaning is totally different, but surprisingly the root is the same. So Surah Muzammil, it's za, mim, lam is the root, but the meaning is totally different, and the reason for that is that there is a different pattern of that verb, because these different patterns of verbs, when I say different patterns of verbs, there are 17 different patterns of verbs in Arabic. 12 has been used in Quran, and they fall into these different patterns, and those patterns tell us their specific meanings then, which there is a general meaning, but then there is a specific meaning as well. So there is in Surah Muzammil, the pattern of that, where that has been derived, will be it will be kind of za, mim, lam, the same order, za, mim, lam. but the pattern will be that of tafa'ala yatafa'alu. Tafa'ala madi, yatafa'alu yatafa'alu. Tafa'ulun was mudare. Tafa'ulun. Sorry, that's not mudare, that's masdar. So madi, mudare and masdar. Tafa'ala yatafa'alu tafa'ulun. And if we put this mada or jizr or root here, fa kalima, ain kalima and lam kalima, this is fa kalima, ain kalima and lam kalima, we have talked about that. So this becomes tazammala tazammala yatazammalu tazammala yatazammalu tazammulan tazammulan. So madi, mudare and masdar. And in these abwab, babun and abwabun, these are abwabs, are chapters of 17 chapters. In these mazid fi abwab, in which when I say mazid fi, in mujarrad form, at this level, which the first siga and the first form of the verb, in which we will see only 3 root letters, no additions at all. So that's called mujarrad, and that's a third person masculine singular form of the verb. So there will be only 3 letters, which is mujarrad, which is original pure. But when we make additions like this, zamala, tazamala, alzama, this is also mujarrad, but these are mazid fihi because there are additions in them. There's a hamza extra here, there's alif extra here, for example, there is another alif extra here. So in here, in this pattern, we have got ta extra, then we have fa, which is fa kalima, ain kalima and lam kalima. And in these, when we make ismul fa'il and ismul maf'ul, we make from mudare. Here we make them from madi. For example, lazima yalzamu, to be necessary, and we can say lazimun and malzumun. So ismul fa'il and ismul maf'ul, active participle and passive participle. Similarly here, lamaza malmuzun, lamaza backbiter, and malzumun, on which the action of backbiting is taking place. So ismul fa'il and ismul maf'ul. But here the ismul fa'il and ismul maf'ul, they are made from mudare. So what we do is basically we remove the marker of mudare, which is ya here, and change it to mim. So that become mutta, and give it dhamma rather than fatha. Mutta za, and here either we can give kasra or fatha, and here we give tanween. So that will become either mutazammilun or mutazammalun. So mutazammilun will be ismul fa'il and mutazammalun will be ismul maf'ul. So ismul fa'il, the active participle, and ismul maf'ul, the passive participle. But what happens is, because ta and za, and their ham makhraj, their articulation points are close together in the oral cavity. So rather than saying mutazammil here, for example, these are merged together and za becomes double, so it becomes muzammil, muzammilun. So tazammala yatazammalu tazammulun kind of means fold oneself, to wrap oneself in garments, and muzammil means the one which is folded in garments, and this is one of the nicknames of our Prophet. Allah Ta'ala gave him that that name. Muzammil is you wrap in clothes when you kind of feel unwell or frightened, if you feel feverish or if you're frightened of something, that's this fi'l is used. When you are lying down in bed at night time to sleep, then mudassir is the word which is used. So it's slightly different meanings, but similar is the wrapping and being in duvet or in blanket, that kind of thing. So that has clarified this, I suppose. So if all this has helped to get group of this abstract level, root letters, fasaha, balaga, etc., brilliant, congratulate yourself. If not, don't worry, all this was not meant to be in the original plan. This is just extra. When we have completed the basic level, you can always refer back to this video, and at that particular time it will, I'm sure it will make much more sense. At this stage, what we really, I can't speak properly now. At this stage, what we have to do now is to focus on Lugha, Sarf and Nahw. That's it. That's what we're doing for the moment. Forget about abstract levels kind of things. Forget about Fasaha and Balaga as well. They will come on later on, but we do not have to focus on them at this stage. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.